guys, so now we're looking to do my last week class. We're getting caught up. We're doing the arm triangle series. So we're gonna start in mount. Here I'm just gonna show very basic, kind of how to hold mount. We want our knees pinched together and our toes touching if we can. If you can't, you just want them actively trying to touch each other. This makes it hard for her to just straighten the leg out and start to scoop that very basic mount escape. And keeping my knees pinched, make it harder for her to just drop her elbow. If I had them open, she could just easily put her elbow in. So we need to make sure everything's pinched nice and tight. Now we're gonna look at how to isolate the arm here. So doing it this traditional way may work, especially with a two hand will be more likely. But this is pushing into her chest, shoulder, all these big muscles. So if we take an inverted grip here, inverting this grip takes all this pressure and just puts it directly on her shoulder, which makes it harder for her to start resisting. So when I go here, I'm just gonna look to straighten the arm out and start to pin this down here. If she doubles up on this arm, like takes the top arm over and holds it, that's no issue. You just need to remember you're always attacking the bottom arm. So if she were to maybe take the arm here I'm attacking and cross like this, I would need to go underneath and start attacking this arm. But because you all are facing this way, we're gonna go ahead and put that here. We're just gonna take a second supine grip and hold. We're not gonna look to try and like push both of these, because with our arms straight, we can only go one, like take our body one direction. So we're just gonna look to hold this one so she can't use it to pull, and then straighten this out. Once we get it down to here, we're just gonna look to switch off to a superior pinning position. So this supine grip is good for breaking, like pinning the arm down, and a straight grip is good for actually holding it. This is a sturdy grip where they can't easily escape it. As opposed to this, the weakness of my lock is this way, so if she just straightened her arm out, it'd be gone. Whereas this, the weakness of my lock is on the mat, so she can't take her hand any more to the mat because I have it pinned against the mat. So this is gonna be much harder to break. All right, so we've looked at how to pin this arm down, got it down here, switch off. The important thing here is you need to now take your head next to her head, so ear to ear. If you don't do this, when I drop down and go under this elbow, all she has to do is bring this hand in across my neck. And now even when I get it here, it's gonna be hard, especially if they have it tight and they tuck it underneath your armpit. This is gonna, you really have nothing here. It's super hard to finish anything. So to prevent that, we gotta take away this space by going ear to ear. And then now we can switch from this holding grip to right under the elbow. So I like to pinch elbow to thigh here. So then a lot of times they try to explode or get this arm away. And when they do try to move it up, I can just catch the elbow. And if they don't, that's no big deal, because now I can just start walking my hand underneath to get elbow exposure. Once you get this, the most important thing about getting, especially on big strong guys, you're gonna have to take your head this way. Straightening the arm like this is not gonna be enough. The body follows the head. So if we take the head this way, we're now engaging our whole body into getting this up. I struggled with this forever, like just doing this, and I could never get like big strong guys. And I start taking my head over, and I can now get anyone's arm up super easy. So even when she's resisting here, if she's resisting and I'm just trying to straighten, this isn't really gonna work. So I need to straighten and take my head over to this side and do the finger walk as much as I can. Once you start feeling resistance, like you can't go anymore, then I'll come back here and reset, and then I'll do another straighten and walk it up more and more. You might have to do this a few times, especially on a much bigger opponent, but it will work, I promise. So, you know, just keep repeating this cycle until you get it up of go as much as you can. As soon as you feel like you can't walk anymore, come back. And then extend, take your head over, finger walk as much as you can until you get her arm up here in this chopping block type position. All right, so now we're gonna look at, let's go ahead and turn so they can see. We have everything here, pin, we drop down, we got the exposure, we're in this chopping block position. Now to get the arm over for the arm triangle, we need to take this hand and keep going as far as we can go, all the way over until you can get chin on elbow. Once you have your chin on your elbow, then you have sufficient enough exposure to start going for this arm triangle. On a taller opponent or someone with much longer limbs, sometimes you will have to take your head kind of high to walk this over. If you do this, just remember when you go to finish, you need to drop back down. A lot of times people stay high and then they go to finish and I'm like directly on her face, just crushing her face and not doing any choke. So when you do this, a lot of times I have to come high. You get chin on elbow. Once you have chin on elbow, you can take this hand and just post right here on her tricep. And we're just gonna use this hand to start walking our neck down. You don't wanna start like doing this or you're making a bunch of space, because then as soon as I do, she'll just whip her hand back to the ground, which we'll go over how to stop that later. But for right now, we need to make sure we're trying our best to walk our neck all the way down. So now from here, I can already feel I'm too high on her because I had to get the exposure. So I need to sink my hips back down so I'm directly on the neck and not on the face. Once we're here, we're gonna look to get our choking arm bicep all the way on her neck. If you don't, you're never gonna get this. So the easiest way to do this is we're gonna try to lift her off the mat. Trying to just shove this through like this is gonna be hard because I got the friction of the mat. So we're gonna look to post this leg up, post our free hand on her head, and just take her slightly off the mat. This makes it so much easier for me to just get my arm through as tight as I can. So I do this kipping motion, and you wanna go as tight as you can. Just keep kipping until you feel like your arm has stopped moving. Once we're here, just take a basic gable grip here, put her back on the mat, look to dismount. Now from here, we're gonna sprawl out, but we're not gonna walk because I'll loosen up. If I just keep walking, she can follow me endlessly and I'm never gonna get this. So to simulate the walking, we're gonna look to take our left elbow and just incrementally work it higher up until you get the tap. This will simulate the same thing as the walk. As I incrementally go higher up, it moves her neck more and more into the choke without having to just keep going in a circle. So this was like the game changer for me, and it prevents a lot of those escapes where they like pendulum out because your elbow is higher than their shoulder, so they effectively can't take your weight back over the other way because all of it is over their shoulder. It's too much weight. So we're here, I got the chopping block, walked it up, chin on the elbow. Down here, I work my neck as far down as I can get, trying to get ear to ear, like my neck on her shoulder. If you're too high, just remember, sink your hips back until you feel like you're off their face. Post with the free hand on the head, post up here, look to take her up, work this as much as you can. Take a gable grip. Choking hand is gonna be palm down to make the bicep longer. Gable grip, look to sprawl out, and then start taking my arm up more and more. When you do this, I'm gonna loosen up. You need to sprawl out like this with your knee pushing into her ribs to keep her from moving any, and you can drive this way. but because this choke is so tight, I'm trying to alleviate some pressure so I can show you all the increment walking without like having her tap out after the first walk.
And guess what his name was?
Croc.
Keanu.
Oh.
Yeah, that's awesome. John Wick selling you Crocs.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna look at, we got all this down here. We got it up. We're doing the arm triangle. We're gonna look at some troubleshooting. I've had a few people in here that even when I get down over the neck, my neck can only hold so much. I'm not holding any space between like the top here and the mat. So sometimes they can just explode super hard and whip their hand down to the mat. That's no big deal. You just need to make sure that you're diligent about keeping this hand near her arm. So when she does this and whips it down, I can just catch the elbow and repeat that same procedure, walking it back up. There's only so many explosions that they can do before their arm will get worn out, and then they can no longer do this. So this is kind of like ride the wave. Maybe I'm working down here, she explodes down to the mat, I walk it back up. Maybe this time I get a little bit closer, but she does it again, walk it back up. Because once I get down here, all the way to the choke, there's no more exploding because now my ear is touching her ear. So the space between her arm and the mat is effectively gone if my ear is touching her ear. If I'm just here really high, there's a lot of space. She can easily do that. So you just need to keep working that same procedure until you get here, ear to ear. Now when she goes to do it, you can't because I'm pinching that space off, and you can finish the arm triangle all the same like we showed in the previous clip.